Okay, so here for chapter 13, we start out on a very bright note. As you probably are aware, or you might be aware, the publisher, the textbook author, creates these assignments. And we basically, as you've noticed throughout the semester, we have this kind of back and forth with the publisher or with the textbook where it thinks that you should be responsible for one thing, and the reality is something different. So, here for chapter 13, it doesn't let me remove questions from you seeing them, but at least I can remove them from the points counting towards anything. So, as a preview here, I'm starting off this lecture by talking about which questions these are so that you know it doesn't really matter what you answer. You can even just skip it entirely, and it will not grade it, and it will not affect your grade. But as a review here, it would be question 4, question 6, question 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 16, 17. Now, the question would be is why am I removing all these? Cournot, Stackelberg, and Bertrand oligopolistic structures are all ones you need to know, but the textbook is, and this problem set is trying to make it so that you have to use a great deal of calculus to solve these, when in reality, we can get through it with just some rather simple algebra, which is what I walk you through in the problem set helper video. So, with that said, let's just start looking at. So now you know which questions you can avoid or ignore. Let's start looking at the questions. Actually, let's just look at it this way because we're here anyway. Okay, so first one is a definitional question, and we're asked to define what these characteristics, what kind of market structure would be with these characteristics. Sorry, it's not going to let me. No, actually, I can do it here, I guess. These are all the characteristics of a monopolistically competitive market. Large number of firms, just like a perfectly competitive firm, but high degree of product differentiation. That's what makes it a little bit monopolistic. Free entry, that's where it's a little bit competitive. So it's a mixture of the two, thus perfectly competitive. Okay. Return. Going back to this. I don't remember why I don't like doing this. Sorry about that. Here. Okay, let's look at the next one. Try not to draw. A competitive firm is observing a rival firm raising its price. What would it tend to do? If it's competitive, it's just going to ignore them because, right, in this case, the market price is going to dictate what everyone's going to be able to charge. So it's just going to let them go bankrupt. Just ignore the rival's action because they're going to raise their price and then no one will buy from that firm anymore. Number 3, why do most cartels fail? Usually, and what has typically happened with cartels even being unlikely to be able to form is that you find that either they join the cartel and they break the agreement, right, and then they provide enough to overwhelm those who are honoring the cartel agreement, or as is implied in this question here, even if they're not. So I would change these responses here, but I would say non-honoring cartel members or non-cartel members can supply the consumers with large quantities of the good. Thus, they don't need to go. They don't need to be in agreement with the cartel agreement. Number 4 is one that you need to skip. As you can see here, they're just making things look difficult when in fact they're not that difficult. Okay, so that was number 4, which you can skip. Number 5. Why does differentiating its product allow an oligopoly to charge a higher price? Because essentially when the oligopolistic firm differentiates its product, what it's doing is it's in essence making that product differentiation is making the demand more unique, or in this case, less elastic or more inelastic. Thus kind of ensuring that you're able to provide the product. As examples, right? Subarus, in this oligopolistic structure of car manufacture, Subarus are typically all-wheel drive. Toyotas and Hondas are known for lasting a long time. GM and Ford make really good muscle cars, right? So they focus on these kinds of ways that they can differentiate their product line to make it less elastic. So that when people are looking for a muscle car, probably not going to be buying a Toyota. They're going to be buying a GM or a Ford. Okay, number 6 is actually not that difficult. My only reason for, right, because the math involved here is not that difficult. I just wanted you to focus on the problem set and exam rather than having to do it here. So you don't need to do 6. You don't need to do 7. You do not need to do 8. You do not need to do 9. You do not need to do 10. You do not need to do 11. I'm like, damn, Shining, get rid of everything. Not, again, I just cannot get rid of it. Number 12. Will the price be lower if the duopoly firms set the price or if they set the quantity? So which one matters, right? We're talking about basically differentiating between Bertrand and Stackelberg. Which one is it better to be? Under what conditions can you give a definitive answer to this question? Well, this comes down to what kind of product they're producing. If the product itself is the same, if it's identical, then typically what we would see is that the prices would tend to be lower if they set the price. So that's just definitional, and we saw this as well when we when we looked at our reaction functions. We could see this as well. So so what we know is that we have to have an option where if they're producing identical goods, then the price is lower. Okay, so B is optional. B is an option. Is C an option? Would the price always be lower? So let's say that the product is heterogeneous. Would it also be lower? Well, that we don't know actually. If it's heterogeneous, it's a bit indeterminate. So it is actually answer B here. But why is that the case here? Because essentially, there could be a variety of reasons of why the person is buying the product, and it may not always be about price, especially if the products are heterogeneous. If there's certain characteristics where the product is more desired for that characteristic that it has. So our correct answer here in this case is C. Is B. The good is exactly identical. Price is lower if the price is set. But if the goods are heterogeneous, then we don't really know, because we don't know how important how important or unimportant the differences are. Okay. 13 can be skipped. Here we've got partials, so yeah, let's not worry about that. 14. Does an oligopoly or monopolistically competitive firm have a supply curve? Why or why not? We have not dealt with that at all. So, especially since you looked at the graph, the reason why the oligopolistic firm and the monopolistically competitive firm don't have those kinds of concerns is because we don't have that relationship between price and quantity. What we tend to see, right, is that especially with oligopolies, it's quite apparent that they're acting strategically. And so our answer here is B, because they're acting strategically, not according to any relationship that exists for a supply curve. Okay, and you're not doing 15 is a no. Again, this one's actually not that tough. I'm just, when we're talking about Cornell, I just, again, would rather you focus on the problem that I gave you. 16 is also one I'm not having you do. Again, it's not difficult. This is one where we're differentiating. We have two different markets that exist. But again, I'm going to keep it a little simple here since we're towards the end. And then number 17, same structure as number 16, two separate markets, and looking at those demand curves. Which brings us to number 18. And here, you're just dealing with the cost structure. I don't want to draw this out, if only because my drawing of it has not been rather successful. But essentially here, you are given the fixed cost for each firm. And then what you have to do is, with their marginal revenue equaling their marginal cost, look at this for the airline itself and what that equilibrium profit, what the profit at the equilibrium level would look to be. Okay. This one I'm not drawing out, so if you do have some question about the math involved with this, if it's not entirely clear, let me know, and I will make you a separate standalone video for this. But again, just to conclude here, these are the questions that you do not need to worry about. You are not graded on them. If you want to answer them, that's fine. But you are not being graded on them. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 16, 17. Okay?